Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio. Sponsored by Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. I am Allison Kinney. Looking into the headlines today, the Senate reconciliation bill, including farm safety net improvements, is up this week as Republicans try to pass and return to the House the president's core tax bill by July 4th. It's crunch time for the Senate, taking up its version of the House-passed reconciliation budget, including improved reference prices, crop insurance coverage, and business tax breaks.
We lowered tax rates for owners of small and medium-sized businesses, farms, and ranches, and made it easier for them to recover the cost of investing in their businesses, which in turn freed up cash for them to invest in their operations and their workers. Majority
Leader John Thune pointed to a couple, including the pass-through deduction many producers take on their individual returns.
The Section 199A small business tax deduction and full expensing for new capital investment in domestic research and development. Our legislation will permanently extend these key provisions.
It does the same for the immediate expending of farm and other equipment, plus a doubling of the estate tax exemption and survival of the 45Z biofuels credit. However, the Senate would scale back by some $80 billion SNAP cost shifting to the states and reverse a House boost to the state and local tax break that secures the votes for House passage. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer says the bill, based on nonpartisan scoring, still costs more than it generates in economic growth.
Even after you take into account any impacts, any economic impacts, the so-called dynamic scoring created by the Republican bill, it is still a loser for working and middle-class families. Only the wealthy gain.
But Thune argues other independent review shows the bill produces more revenue than it costs, with lower tax rates and higher wages for all incomes, but the opposite if current law isn't extended. And for farmers, it means a modernized safety net and greater tax certainty.
Here's farmer and landowner John Prue.
We purchased the land about 3 years ago, and there was an old farmstead on there with trees. We were going to clear the land so we could farm through it. We thought we knew where the pipe was, so we didn't call to get it located. The work on our property led to the damage of a light crude pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety campaign.
Also making headlines, screwworm prevention less expensive than eradication. The USDA has outlined its plan to attack the New World screwworm. That includes $8.5 million for the facility to produce sterile flies in South Texas. Ag Secretary Brooke Rawlings said the agency is trying to enhance its ability to detect, control, and eliminate this pest. Sigrid Johans of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association says it's an extremely expensive disease to eradicate, which is why prevention is key.
The dominoes in Central America fell really fast, and we saw from November of last year up and through the winter and the spring, we saw this disease move really quickly through Central America into Mexico, and that is why it is such an urgent concern for the United States now, because it is right at our southern neighbor, and we've got to make sure we keep it out of the U.S. cattle herd. It is an extremely expensive disease to eradicate once you have it, so prevention is worth everything here.
One step was to close the border to live cattle imports, and another was to breed flies that are sterile, so when they mate in the wild with females, they do not produce offspring.
And then they drop them into the environment, and these sterilized males, in theory, outcompete the males in the environment, and gradually the population goes down. The trick with that, though, is you need an awful lot of flies.
There's currently one facility in Panama producing these flies. Mexico is working on another, and this would give the U.S. a sterile fly operation near the border. Looking more into cattle, U.S. cattle on feed down 1%. The USDA's Cattle on Feed report said cattle and calves on feed for the slaughter market in the United States for feedlots with the capacity of 1,000 or more head totaled 11.4 million on June 1, 2025. That inventory level was 1% below June 1, 2024, which fell within most of the industry's pre-report expectations. Industry experts called the report neutral to slightly friendly, but continue to point to the tight supply picture for the cattle market. Drover says several states continue to see inventory well below last year, such as Texas at 93% and Colorado at 96% of 2024. On the other end, Nebraska was 104% compared to 2024, Oklahoma was 102%, and Kansas was 101%. Fed cattle markets in May totaled 1.76 million head, 10% below 2024. Other disappearances in May totaled 62,000 head, unchanged from May 2024. This market report is brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. July corn down 3 even at $4.16 1/4. December corn down 4 3/4 at $4.29. July soybeans down 12 even at $10.46 3/4. November soybeans down 9 3/4 at $10.37. July wheat down 17 even at $5.35 3/4. September wheat down 17.5 at $5.52. June live cattle down 70 cents at $221.60. August live cattle up 17 cents at $209.55. July lean hogs down 122 at $112.22, and August lean hogs down 210 at $110.95. This is the Ohio AgNet.